What is going on, everyone? This is your host, Rob, back with another episode of From My Experience podcast. I have two special guests with me. One of them, one
Oh
of
my
them
god.
has probably been one of the people to piss you off in the Facebook group. You've probably sent me a DM about about some of his comments and his thoughts and his feelings. He's known to trigger people. But I will say this about him, y'all. I tell everyone the same thing. That's who he is. He's really not joking. He's not playing. He's not trolling. Like, that's who he is. That's just the way he thinks. And there's no problem with that. We all have different thoughts, feelings, and opinions. So we have Mr. Dmizzle for Rizzle, aka Dave, joining us.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I would love to see these DMs, man, because I want that smoke. I do.
Don't ask for it. The hell? You don't
I
want
want
it.
all the smoke.
Now, we're not alone. Now, Dave is a believer and a participator in a poly relationship. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to say it. Because I might say Palmolive or some shit. So,
Polyamorous.
there you go, polyamorous. Okay, cool. And one of his partners is here with us today. We have Dani. How are you, Dani?
I'm good. I'm just now realizing that D might be one of the most hated people in a particular corner of the internet, so this is fun.
He is. But see, like, you
I'm
know,
gonna learn something.
yeah, he is. Like, a lot of people, you know, in the From My Experience podcast Facebook group, if you're not a part of it, please join. We just got our numbers up to 700. I'm going to try to get us to 1,000 by the end of the month. I think I can do that. What I really like and admire about the group, though, is I've only had to kick out 4 people because they were just straight up hating, just name call, just dumb shit. But, like, what I appreciate about Dave, he thinks differently. You know what I'm saying? He abides by a different lifestyle, which we all do. You know, but some people would consider his lifestyle and his thoughts extreme. And I'm like, yo, but I've known people like Dave before or similar to. So I'm like, it doesn't bother me because I'm like, that's his life. That's how he thinks. And that's how I look at all the comments. But I think some of us in the group, we get so caught up in trying to convince the other person. And I'm like, yo, it's not, I don't post things to try to start arguments or fights, or I don't even comment to convince people. I just try to paint a picture from both sides of the fence because it's not about right or wrong. It's about what you choose to do with your life and whoever you have in your life, what y'all choose to do together. So many people think that there's a quote unquote right or wrong. And that, I mean, right or wrong kind of sort of doesn't even really exist if you think about it. But yes, a lot of people have sent me messages about Dave because he just shits over people's philosophies. That's how they feel.
I'm not there to, like, shit on anybody's philosophy. Like I haven't been monogamous for going on 10 years now. And, like, after my last relationship fell apart, like, I just realized it wasn't the avenue for me. So I was like, I've always known that I was poly, but I was trying to fit into a monogamous box for the sake of being in that specific relationship or for the sake of society at large. And after my last relationship fell apart, I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is not who I am.
All right, so yes, now you started right where I need you to start. So tell us what led to you realizing that, hey, you know, I want to be in a poly relationship.
Like, I've always felt that monogamy is a lot of, how should I say, it's what society at large expects of you because that's what society was built around, like monogamous relationships. So when they see, like, oh, this person, it's wrong to have strong emotional and intimate feelings for anyone other than the one person that you're with, because if you do have those feelings, you're going to go down the path to cheating on that person because that person's not everything that you need for them to be for you. And I was like, why can't I love this person as well as the person that I'm with? Like, it's not going to be the same love, obviously, because obviously, like, for example, my love that I have with Dani is not the same love that I have for my other partner, Angela. Like, our love is completely different, but it's also no less valid than the other love that I have. So it's just something that was turning in my brain. It's like, I don't get this. Why is this expected of me? Why should I go down this path?
Dani, what about you?
Well, my evolution of like how I lead my personal life and my politics are really closely intertwined. So Dee brought up a good point of like, society is built on monogamy. And a lot of that has to do with, and this is not for everybody, and monogamy is still a valid personal choice for people when it is in fact a free choice. But a lot of society is built on like monogamous family and nuclear family, man going to work, woman maybe going to work, but taking care of home. And it's to get people out the door and to get people working at jobs that might not pay good, but they need to show up anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that kind of like nuclear family structure, you're kind of forced to be, in a lot of ways, a complicit worker, right? And like, the fact that we're doing this podcast in a COVID situation where you're really starting to see who essential workers are and how much society needs people to go and do these low-paying jobs and get people out the door, I think is a big part of why I started to question monogamy and having that family structure that really is built around getting people out the door to work these low-paying jobs and still making sure that they have at least a halfway decent place to live. And you can ask more questions about that later, but I started thinking about the ways that monogamy a lot of times is compulsory, meaning that a lot of us don't have that choice to be non-monogamous. That being able to choose to be non-monogamous for a lot of us is a privilege, because you might be in a society or a family or a social circle where that choice to be non-monogamous is not available. You would be ostracized. You would be considered, a slut or what have you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not following that template that they have sent out for you. And that might also have to do with what kind of religion you belong to, right? So, kind of the more wide open I got with my politics is starting to question how society is run for the benefit of the few against the choices and freedom of the many. I started thinking about, how I live my everyday relationships too. And that for a long time I was stuck in a group where monogamy was the only choice. And stepping outside of it would have had serious personal repercussions and financial repercussions because of the job and industry I was in. Once I was able to move away from that a little bit, I started rethinking, maybe monogamy isn't the best choice for me, because I got to know myself. And part of that's a function of being alive longer. I figured, after a year or two, I usually lose a little bit of energy for a partner physically, and having multiple partners seems to draw that timeline out. I'm able to maintain energy for multiple people for a longer period of time in non-monogamous relationships. And I really kind of just developed the skills to be a really good communicator and to be open and honest about who I am and what I need, and not compromising, not giving up too much of myself to mold myself to another person, which is, at least for me, what monogamy that corner monogamy backed me into. Was like, okay, I'm in a monogamous relationship. I got to get as much as I can from this one person. So I've got to mold myself to this person such that I can preserve this relationship. So that's a long answer to a short question.
No, I appreciate the detail given. Context is important, so I like when people go into greater detail and when they talk about these things. And I agree with some of your points. I believe that, people like me, I could never survive in a poly relationship because I'm a giver. Like, there's nothing I won't do for my girlfriend right now. And I can't afford to do that for more than one person. But it's part of my personality type. Like, I don't like the half-ass things. I'm either all the way in or I'm all the way out. I don't like the in-between stuff. And it takes me time to adjust to a person's individual personality to say, okay, you know what? They're okay with this amount. I don't have to kill myself to do that. And also, I'm introverted. which helps a lot too. And I don't like a lot of people anyway. Like, I don't like being around people. Like, I spend a lot of time alone. I'm not crazy, y'all, because I know some of y'all like, what the hell is this? But I like being by myself. So, and me and my girlfriend, we just fit very, very well. And I do believe that there's definitely benefits to a poly relationship, you know, like you all said. And it goes back to the Facebook group post. We were talking about love languages. It's easier to find all the love you need when you have multiple people versus trying to get everything out of one person, because that one person has to have a vested interest in you enough to adapt and adjust to your love languages and vice versa. Whereas if you have 2 or 3 partners, it's like, okay, I know I'm going to get this from you. I'm going to get this from you, so I can go 3 places and get everything I want. So, but I think also people need to understand and respect the fact that that is a life choice. It's not because you're a freak and because you're nasty. It's just that's just the way you think and feel, and the choice you decide to make. And I don't like when people down people for their lifestyle choices or their beliefs, because we're all raised different. We all grow and learn and have different paths in life that lead us to where we are today. Now, let me get off my soapbox. I have some questions about this though. What are the biggest challenges you would say? And I'm asking both of y'all. Y'all can choose who answers first. Ladies first. What are some of the biggest challenges y'all have faced?
Do you mean in general or with each other?
I know you face challenges with that guy. I mean,
that's
either
why,
or.
That's why I wanted to clarify.
No, either or, whichever one you feel like expressing.
No, I will say up front, given Dee's particular internet persona, I will say that the first time he and I had like a knockdown, drag out, like not literally, but like I flamed his ass on the internet about something, and I got really upset because I was just like, because I let him have it, and then he called me. And we talked about it, and it was totally fine. He was just like, "No, this is what I do all the time online, you know." Because I used to have a partner where if I publicly contradicted him, I was in trouble, and I'm not going to get into that. But Dee was really the first person I could disagree with and have an argument with in public in front of God and everybody, and it was okay.
Yep.
He never resorted to name calling. He always respected my opinion, but he would come back with a counterattack.
Of course.
Right? He's just like, okay, you think this way? All right, defend it, right? And that makes me a stronger debater. But I sat down and cried after that conversation because that was the first time I had a partner where, yeah, I could disagree publicly and have a real argument and really dig in, and it didn't pose a risk to the relationship. And I was incredibly grateful for that. So that's not really the biggest challenge, the differences of opinion. And when we argue, I tell him we usually argue about 2 things. I'm trying to make sure that the foundations of his argument are sound, and I'm also trying to make sure that he's not an asshole. And he has passed the test time and time again. I don't always agree with him. Yes. He's a fantastic, one-on-one, he is a fantastic man. He's never disrespected me in front of people or ever, right? But I didn't come on this podcast to defend him.
You don't need to. He's not a bad person. He's not a bad person. I can tell y'all that. Yeah. I mean, though we have not met in person, we've played Xbox and we've had conversations. He just thinks the way he thinks, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I keep trying to tell people that. I'm like, just because someone thinks differently than you and they don't agree with everything you say does not make them wrong and does not make them a bad person.
But my biggest challenge really is I like to incorporate the people I care about into a lot of different facets of my life. And it has been difficult to navigate how I talk about my partners, like at work, people want to switch, trade, spouse anecdotes. Oh, my partner did this and my partner did that. So I usually just say my partner. And sometimes people, I don't know if they catch me or what, but they're like, I thought you said your partner did this and this and this. And I was just like, oh yeah, I did. Right. Yeah. And I'm not like necessarily denying, but some of them are like, these stories don't seem consistent, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but also like with my family, right? You bring somebody around and you seem partner-y, but you just calling them friends, right? They're
Right.
going to call BS. But when I have multiple people that are important to me, I'm trying to navigate how do I navigate it such that the partners I care about get to know other people I care about that aren't part of polyamorous lifestyle. With friends, it's been pretty easy. They're just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we knew you were headed that way anyway. It's fine.
Right.
But family, coworkers, it's a little harder to navigate.
Yeah.
So not that I feel the need to tell my coworkers like, oh, I'm in a non-monogamous lifestyle, but I do want to be able to, like, you know, tell little stories in office chit chat about people I care about and funny things that happen, and to be able to name those people as my partners. And it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It really hurts to not be able to share completely openly and honestly how happy, you know, these people make me without revealing things about my private life that are not really anyone's business and could get me in hot water at work or could cause some conflict with my family, right?
Okay. I get exactly what you're saying and totally what you're saying. Navigating that is, and shoot, even monogamous people have to navigate that because of people's thoughts and opinions and the impact it could have.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Dave?
In general, what causes issue with me is like my mom's side of the family, because my mom, she knows that I'm poly, but she's like super duper religious. So it's like she's still caught up on the, I'm going to find a nice Catholic girl for you, but I'm already involved in 2 very satisfying relationships, but she's trying to marry me off and exorcise the demons from my lifestyle because she's so rigid in her belief that she doesn't believe that I should be in the relationship style that I'm currently in. So that's one of the bigger challenges for me. Like, even though people in my family on that side of the family know that I'm poly, it's not widely accepted. So it's like hard to have that conversation without somebody jumping on me like, oh, you should just find one girl and settle down and just be happy with that. My dad's side of the family is more understanding, except for my stepmom, but it is what it is with her. But my dad's side of the family, they are more understanding because a lot of them come from non-traditional relationships in the first place. So when I told my dad that I was poly, he's like, okay, so how's it working out for you? Do you want any advice? Here are the pitfalls, blah, 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 ABC, XYZ. So he was more supportive than my mom was in that venue. As it goes with relationship issues, it's an adjustment period because you're having to adjust to multiple types of personalities, and like what Dani needs from me is totally different than what Angela needs from me.
That
So
would
it's
drive
like
me fucking crazy.
so it's like, yes, like you said, you go all in with your girlfriend, you're a giver. Like, I'm a giver too. I give Dani all that I'm able to give her from what she can take from me and what she requires from me. So in that aspect, we're very, very similar. But I also know my limits. I know what I am capable of giving and what I am not capable of giving. So I don't even try and go down those avenues because I don't want to set myself up for failure.
Right.
Like, that's not who I am. I'm not going to try and be that. That's the end of that road.
You said you give what I could take from you. I'm dying over here.
I caught that too.
I almost had to mute myself.
So I'm assuming that there's different levels to poly relationships. I would say how is you all's structured? And like, how did y'all meet and come across each other?
Well, I'm curious about what you think the levels are. I want to know what's in your head before I answer that question, because this is interesting to me. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. No, I'm assuming that there's levels where hey, it's just going to be the 3 of us and no one else, or hey, it's going to be the 3 of us and you 2 can have, 4 more additional people or whatever. Like, I feel like basically some people can kind of keep a smaller nucleus versus a larger one where it continues to branch out. Obviously, I think it depends on you all's comfort level and level of affection, and then also, health concerns, because, that's a big reason why I never even mess with a lot of girls at once, because I'm like, you're never going to get anyone's full truth. And it's like, I don't want to bring anything home that I can't give back or get rid of. So
Right.
I would assume that there's certain levels, like, for instance, I'm assuming, because I don't know, I haven't asked, that, the three of you are involved on some type of level. But I don't know if you and Dave's other partner interact without Dave, or y'all just don't even interact at all. I don't know how it's built. So I'm assuming that it depends on how you all decide to talk it out, work it out, and say, hey, this is what I want this to look like for us.
All right, do you mind if
Yeah,
I answer this then?
Can I take a stab real quick?
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay. So I would agree that I'm not going to call them levels, because when you using the word level implies that there's a hierarchy, and like one person might be more poly than the other. Like, I've got 5 partners, I'm more poly than you. I would say it's more
right.
It'd be more a difference. It's like achievement unlocked. I got a 3rd partner, I'm like a, black belt poly. No. But there's different styles and configurations. I got a cool graphic after we get off the call. But yeah, there's definitely different styles and configurations. But really, it all comes down to negotiation, right? And talking about what you're comfortable and not comfortable with. Dee, do you want to take it? You want to take it from there? I just wanted to clear up that level language.
Like the type of relationship that Molly, myself, and Angela are in, we're in an egalitarian, open V poly configuration, and what that means is that I'm.
Damn.
What that means is that I'm in a relationship with Dani and I'm in a relationship with Angela, but they're not in a relationship with each other.
Okay.
But they are free to have other partners outside of our relationship.
Do y'all require notification of additional partners?
Yes.
Yeah, we ganged up on him in an argument at a party once. That was fun.
Like they're friends with each other.
Okay.
It's not to say that they don't interact with each other, but they're not involved with each other on a romantic level.
Yeah. I haven't interacted with her independent of you, but if she's in the same room.
And so
we'll be like,
so if one of the three of you decides, hey, I want another partner, did you have to come back to the other two and say that?
Like, we'll have that conversation. It's not like we can refuse, like, oh, you can't have this partner. Like, we'll sit down and be like, hey, this is a person that I'm interested in bringing into my romantic life. Mm-hmm. This is who they are. This is what they do. And that's the extent of it. It's not like either one of us have some sort of mystical veto power. That's not how it works in our relationship. Right. Other poly relationships may operate off of the veto power, but that's not how we roll, because I feel like that's just a cornerstone of jealousy when you extend veto power, because it's like, okay, you may not like the person that they are involved with and you may voice that, but that's where I'm at. Like, I might not be in agreement with someone Angela may get involved with, and I might bring that up, like, hey, Angela, like, I see that you're involved with so-and-so. I have concerns about this partner because of A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. And that would be a conversation that we would sit down and have. If she decides not to continue with that relationship based off of our conversation, that's all well and good. If she decides to continue to go forward despite my reservations, that's where the conversation ends. I might still have issue with the person in a relationship, but I have to accept that this person is now in a relationship with someone that I'm also in a relationship with.
And then you could either choose to continue to be in that relationship or not.
I'm not going to dump a person because they're in a relationship that I'm not a fan of that person. That would be petty of me. Like, I still love her. I may not be a fan of the person that she's in love with, but I still love her. I'm not going to throw out the whole bathwater just because this one aspect of it does not fit my mold. That's not fair to her.
That's very interesting. That dynamic right there alone is another reason why I know I can do that, because I feel like if you disagree with something when it comes to that aspect of life, then it's probably something serious. And then, my other thing is this, again, go back to the health concerns. It's like, I really need to know who that person is, because if you're interacting with them romantically, then now me and that person are attached. Whether they know it or not, whether they want us to be attached or not, whether we like each other or not, I'm attached to this person through you. So that's important. But I feel what you're saying. It takes a very big and mature person to be able to overlook that and say, you know what, okay, cool, but I love you, so we can keep doing this. And I know
it's not overlooking. That's a big misconception. Like,
okay,
it's just accepting that it is what it is. Like, yes, like I acknowledge that this is going to be a thing in your life, and I accept it. But we're just going to move forward from that, because that is not a major part of my life. Your partner is like, I may know him, I may have a conversation with him, but outside of that, that's pretty much the limit of our interaction. If it's like, I'm not in agreement with this partner, that will literally be the limit of me and that partner's interaction.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, for me to speak to the safety concerns, part of that conversation of bringing in a new partner or starting a relationship with a new partner, the health thing is one of the first things that I go over with somebody. It's like, hey, they express interest. Hey, maybe we should start seeing each other. Hey, let's be partners. Okay, let's talk health things. Let's talk who our other partners are. Let's talk about the safer sex practices we have with those other partners. And then I communicate that back to D. So, for example, a few months ago, I got involved with another partner who I don't see as often, especially now. But even before then, didn't see as often. And we had the safer sex talk, and I informed D of what, the risk factors were. And they're very few, but like, I just said, hey, I'm starting to see this person. This is probably how much time I'll be seeing him or how often I'll be seeing him. I'll let you know during the week, when we're hanging out, just for your information, so you just know. And these are just possible health risks, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't ever approach a relationship without having that conversation, because if somebody's being shifty about having the safer sex conversation, I have no patience for them.
And yes, please protect your health, y'all.
I'm the same way. Like, I don't play with my health, especially being a diabetic. Like, it's something that's very, very important to me. So it's not something that I take for granted. And it's to the point where every time that I go to my regular diabetes checkup, which is like every 3 months, I also get a full STD panel. So it's like, that's something that I've gotten into the habit of doing. But before I was diagnosed with diabetes, I used to get an STD test like every 6 months, just because me and Angela were like infrequently having sex, because that's not the nature of our relationship. But Dani and I are regular sexual partners, because that's the nature of our relationship, in addition to everything else that we do. So I felt like, hey, maybe since I'm having sex more often with one partner, but I still have Angela as another partner, I'm going to step up my testing more often.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's a term for partners who have unprotected sex, and that we call them fluid bonded partners. So, meaning there's an exchange of body fluids, right? So, Rob, you all right?
This vocabulary, yo. Yes, I am. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, the more words you have, the easier it is to talk about, right?
Very true.
I'm gonna gift you all kinds of words. You're welcome.
Take them back to the DMs, man.
Oh my god.
I am.
All right, so a fluid bonded partner is someone with whom you exchange bodily fluids, right? So you have to be particularly careful about who your fluid bonded partner is, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I talk to somebody, before we, have sex, I feel like I feel like an old person. I'm like, before we have sexual relations.
Sasha.
Oh my god. Anyway, before we're entering into some kind of sexual relationship of any kind, I talk about, hey, I've got a fluid bonded partner. Whatever you share with me, I would like to share with him. Is that okay? right? So I'm getting consent from all partners to communicate possible health risks. And that, fortunately, that's just an accepted standard of behavior in our community in the area we live in, right? So I think Dee and I are particularly fortunate to be kind of part of a community of poly people who, as far as I can tell, are pretty good about communicating among each other and keeping each other's confidences, keeping each other's health information to themselves, but communicating between these partner chains and all between these different configurations. If one person's health can impact all of us, I think we're pretty good about communicating that. Dee, you've been around in this longer than I have, so tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're very right. And to your point, like I'm never shy when I talk to somebody about sharing my health issues with diabetes because I feel like, hey, you're becoming an important part of my life, so you should know this about me. And if they ask like, well, have you been tested recently? I have that shit on my phone. Like my doctor has like a web portal that I can easily bring up. I'm like, sure, here it is. Here's my latest STD panel results, all negative. You don't have to take my word for it. Here it is in black and white. All the test results, all the medical jargon you'll ever need is right here.
And I think one of the reasons we're good about doing that is because a lot of us have no patience for shame and shaming people for the choices that they make. And shame doesn't keep anybody safe. Shame encourages people to sweep things under the rug and keep things secret. So when you build up kind of a culture of openness and honesty and try to take the shame out of it, it's a lot easier to have these conversations than to say, hey, I did have something. I was treated. I have now tested negative. And you don't have to worry about somebody judging you. You know, the conversation usually goes, oh, thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. I'm glad you got treated. And I'll make sure, to get tested regularly too. Right? It's not judging somebody for being like, well, how did you get it? What were you doing? Why'd you do that? That's why we call it safer sex. There's no such thing as safe sex, but you can make it safer. So it's all about mitigating your risk and not judging people when shit happens. Get treated and let people know. All right. And then we can make our decisions accordingly.
Makes perfect sense. So let's talk about these love languages because Dave was flaming people.
I was not flaming, bro. I was not flaming.
I'm gonna see if I can find this post. I don't even remember how that shit.
I remember exactly how it started. It started because someone in the Facebook group posted a tweet about she met up with an ex-partner and she informed them that they broke up because he was not following her love language of words of affirmation. Was a big thing for her in the tweet. And my thing was like, why didn't she have that conversation with him? Like, if she noticed that he wasn't doing that, why did she not bring that to him? Because it sounded like she was operating off of you should just know status. Like, you should just know how I want to be loved. Like, and that's not how I operate. Like, I don't operate off of you should just know, because that insinuates that I have some sort of mental powers that I'm not fully taking advantage of.
You're not Professor X?
I'm not, man. I'm not.
No, you're right, man. You're right. I'm not gonna read through all these goddamn comments, but I think you threw something. Oh, you're about to say something?
No, I was just saying, no, please don't read them. But
No.
D sees the internet differently than I do.
And like the way the problem was being presented as, I was like, I called it like, this feels like a monogamous relationship problem, because this person literally threw out all the bathwater because this one need from the tweet was not being satisfied.
Here's the controversial line, which is not really that controversial line that you said, because one of your replies, I'm just going to read the first sentence. You said, or you can find someone whose love language is the same as yours. Expecting someone to adopt your love language when it isn't theirs is a stupid and naive thought. So, I'm not going to
Like
say
if,
my love language is sensuality and touching, then attempt to be with someone who doesn't like to do those things. That's stupid on my part. I'm not going to blame them for being who they are. I think, so, obviously that's that's part of a thought to me. Obviously there's more layers to it because I just had like my girlfriend now, we just happen to have the same love language. We didn't take the love language test, and I've known her for over 10 years. I don't remember when we took it, but we took it, and it came out interesting that we were like literally like 1 point apart in certain areas. Like we're the same, which is hard to. That's like a rarity to me. That's a rarity. I've never been with someone like that. Nor have I really looked into the love language thing. And it goes back to what you said. You do have to have a conversation if you're a believer in that, or if you're aware of love languages. You should look into that because it teaches you not only about the other person, but it teaches you about yourself. And I've actually adapted to her love language because, like I said, I'm a giver. I love surprising with gifts, this, that, and the third, but she cares more about quality time. So when I realized that, I quit buying so much shit and put that effort and energy into going out with her more and taking her on dates and just sitting on the couch and falling asleep and shit instead of, oh, let's go to the store and get this. Oh, let's go and get that. Because I'm like, well, that doesn't do it for her.
That's something you're comfortable doing. Like you're comfortable spending quality time. Like even though you're an introvert, there are introvert ways to spend quality time with someone.
Yeah.
So that was not a big shift for you. Like for instance, like if someone's love language is words of affirmation, but they're with someone who doesn't feel comfortable expressing themselves that way, they're not gonna slip suddenly like, I'm going to tell you that I love you every day, or I'm going to compliment you every day, because that's not who they are as a person.
So I went through that. I realized that after the relationship ended because I'm big on shit. Let me read the damn love language. I had the shit pulled up. The 5 love languages, y'all. Words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. She was really big on physical touch and words of affirmation. And I'm big on acts of service. Like that and quality time was mine. She wanted me to say I love you just about every day, every 5 minutes. I'm exaggerating a bit, y'all, but she wanted to hear it quite often. I've never been big on that just because my acts of service show you that. I go above. Right. I feel like my actions speak louder. But we tried to have conversations about it, and she was like, well, I just like to hear it. And me being younger and more ignorant, I just felt like it was stupid, so I didn't do it. But now that I'm older, I realize that for me, if I love and care about someone and they're asking me to do something that I don't feel like is a big deal and it's not a huge hurtful change to me, then that's something I could learn to do. Like my girlfriend now, even though words of affirmation aren't a big thing to her, I tell her I love her more often than I ever have any other person because I realize the impact that it could have and that it could make a difference. And also because I do love her, and with all this crazy shit that has been going on in 2020, not just the world, 2020 has been fucked up from the beginning.
Dude, it's like the fucking Keanu Reeves movie, 2020.
Yo, I'm like, I tell her whenever I can, man. I don't overdo it because I feel like it's cheesy and it can kind of lose meaning. But that's just an adaptation that I decided to make. Like you can't, like you say, you can't force someone. But I feel like if you care enough about me, I feel like relationships are about compromise as well. So that's just the way I felt about it. But yeah, those conversations went on and on and on.
But here's my thing. Like there's a point where adaptation stops and it just becomes fake, because then you're doing it just to appease,
right,
and hold on to something. And that's not a territory I ever want to get into, because your partner can sense when something's being faked.
Yeah.
Like if you just walk by like love you, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real because your heart's not into that. That's not part of your core behavior. That's not part of your adaptation tree. That's not something that you can slide into comfortably and have it come off as genuine, because it is genuine. Mm-hmm. Like if you try and fake a love language, it's easily recognizable, because Another one is like, oh, you like to buy gifts. I'm big on gift giving, but my gift giving isn't extravagant. It's not in the realm of like, let me buy this thing that costs a ridiculous amount of money. It's literally, hey, I saw this thing while I was out, and I remember a conversation we had a while back, so I picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Last week he comes home and goes, "Hey, they were out of seltzer water. I got you wine instead."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the love languages? You're quiet over there.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna throw in a grenade.
Throw it.
I'm throwing it. So I want to back up for a second, and talk about the point about it being a monogamy problem. Because I think that was kind of the crux of the conflict.
Yeah.
And when I said I think D and I see the internet differently, I think sometimes, D, you see it as an open forum for debate, which it is. But I read through some of that chain too, and it looked like this person was upset and wanted to vent and wanted to feel validated. Now, D doesn't play that. He's like, oh, this is an interesting conversation to have. Let's dissect this. Oh, this is fun. And he treats it like a puzzle, where I think this person was hoping to get an emotional need met and had it go very differently than what they had hoped for. And I was thinking about it, and I was just like, if you are a monogamous person, a lot of times, and again, I'm not getting into a poly is better thing, because
Right.
Rob, I think you made really good points about, what your emotional bandwidth is, and you do not want to take on more than one person, and that is completely valid. However, particularly for women, I think when you are kind of in this monogamous world, you operate, and in a sense you have to operate on the assumption of scarcity, meaning that if I don't find a partner by a certain age, I will pass a certain threshold and I will be alone for the remainder of my adult life. And I don't get to accomplish those life stages that I was hoping for, marriage, children, what have you. And when you're operating on this idea of scarcity of like, all the good people are going to be taken, all the good partners are going to be taken if I don't get one, right? Sometimes you do back yourself into a corner of treating love more like a possession, or I got somebody, I got to lock them in. Because if you lose them, maybe you missed your age threshold. Maybe, you're in a long-term relationship with somebody in your 20s into your early 30s. And if you break up in your mid-30s, oh, hey, did you just miss your shot to have that family life you were hoping for? In polyamorous communities, a lot of times relationships are more fluid. They end, they start, maybe they pause. And at least for me, the pressure to find the one or settle down with somebody is lessened just because of the fluidity. And, there's people I might be interested in, and we're simply able to say, hey, not now, I'll get around to you later. Which as a conversation I had with somebody, and it was really funny. It's just like, yeah, you're more of a commitment than I can handle right now, get dinner occasionally. But if you want to achieve that, monogamous lifestyle and find a partner and pair off, I think you are put in a position where you do have to compromise more on the relationship in order to achieve that goal. Because, again, you might feel backed into a corner where, hey, if I can't make this work, I've missed my shot, or, hey, I wish they would try as hard to make this work as I am, because, this is my one person that I expect everything from. I don't think that's a realistic way to approach relationships. But again, some people probably feel like they have to do it that way. And again, that's because of a lot of reasons in society. And like I said, when I'm talking about polyamory, I do consider myself to be speaking from a position of privilege in that, I feel like I have the freedom to engage in relationships how I want, and I don't have that fear of missing a certain threshold, or I don't have a fear of, all the good partners are going to be taken. And once you get outside of that fear, it's a lot easier to say, here's what I want, here's what I need from a relationship, here's how I operate. If you don't like it, that's fine. I can find somebody else. I can engage in a different kind of relationship. I can find other people who are on that same page. And it really is, I think, a privilege that not everybody has. You might be in a geographical location where it's not acceptable. There might not be other people like you. And you do kind of do have to make monogamy work. Or if you're part of a certain religious community or social community, you have to make it work. So you might expect people to mold themselves to you in a way that poly people might not. So I'm not saying that poly people don't compromise at all, right? Dee and I took the love language quiz last night, and like we had like 3 that were kind of overlapping, right? Like, you know, we scored high on a lot of different ones, but you know, I'm not gonna let like a quiz I took on the internet define me,
right? It shouldn't
anybody, but just that idea of compromise, I think, might be a little bit more of a constrained choice than what we're talking about. You know, we were framing this conversation as either you expect your partner to compromise or you don't. Well, it might be your relationship is structured in a way, if you're monogamous, that you need to make more compromises to make it work because you're scared of totally losing that person, losing that relationship, and losing all that time you invested in that relationship, because there might not be somebody else in your community, in your social circle to be in a relationship with, because now everybody's paired up and married or whatever, right? And I'm assuming we're all like in our 30s, 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s on this call, right? Yeah. So,
I'm in my mid-30s.
So it's kind of like that life stage where you're like,
with me.
okay, so it's like when you're like kind of like looking for that one to settle down with, if that's what you want to do. Yeah, I don't think you might feel as free to make that choice of like, hey, this is my love language and I'm not willing to compromise. That might be a privileged choice, especially also if I'd say if you're a man and it's a little bit more acceptable to get married later in life and have children later in life, you might have more room to compromise, right? Because you just don't have
out till we're 50. So that's something I've ran into before. Someone I was with was like so concerned about marriage and stuff because they were getting older. And I'm like, that shit doesn't matter if our relationship is not where it needs to be. It's not going to last. So you're going to have this kid with parents that aren't together. And I definitely don't want that. So.
Yeah. And I think, and then that's a good point too. I mean, I think you need to have, if you choose to be monogamous, you need to have a solid foundation, and you do need to be upfront about these love languages. But when we're talking about people not doing that and expecting another person to compromise, or expecting another person to know their love language, I think we need to think a little bit more about the reasons behind that choice and how their decisions in life might be limited. And then just a side note, what I do for a living is I teach people about relationships and abuse and how social forces can lead people to abuse or leave people stuck in abusive or unhealthy relationships. So I spend a lot of time thinking about this. Gotcha. So that's why I threw that grenade. But love languages are a helpful way to talk about what you want, right? And if people get used to talking about that up front, I think you can save yourself a lot of pain from getting into a relationship you don't have any business being in the first place.
I don't think you threw a grenade, but go ahead, Dave.
To continue that, it's something that you said in the Facebook chat, Rob. It was like that I responded to. Is like I don't believe that people don't know their love languages. I believe that people are afraid to articulate their love languages, especially men, because as men, specifically black men, we're told to hold down our feelings, like put that shit way down deep. If you express certain types of feelings and emotions, you're less than a man, especially in the black community. So we're not taught properly to articulate what our feelings are, especially when it comes to love, emotions surrounding love, and how we want to be loved. We're just expected to take what we get and deal with it. And I think that's a wrong way to go.
I agree. Dani brought up a good point. A lot of, and you said the word fear a few times. I feel like the word fear and people having that fear, FOMO, fear of missing out, that's what causes a lot of the issues. You're so scared of what you might lose that you're not doing a good job of taking care of it or taking care of yourself because you're trying so damn hard to hold on to it. I may want this $100 bill, but if the $100 bill's on fire burning my fucking fingertips, I might need to let that son bitch go. Maybe it's not worth it. And I had to decide one thing, and this is another thing that people don't do, and we really have to do this in monogamous relationships. when a relationship ends, you need to really reflect on it and think of why it ended and what role you might have played in it and say, okay, well, what could I have done differently or do better the next time? One thing my girlfriend does, if there's like, we do this with each other actually. If there's tension or an issue, which we never really have any, if there's a problem, we make each other talk. We talk about it. It's like, well, what's going on? Like, I noticed you're like, are you going to talk to me? And it's either I'm not ready to talk, but we'll talk, or we'll just have the full out conversation, because she genuinely wants to know, okay, well, how are you feeling? What was your thought process? I know you weren't being mean or vindictive, but I want to know what your thought process was. And, you know, we've come to understand more about each other that way, because I realized, because she told me, even like sometimes when she answers something, she doesn't give an answer, if that makes sense. I don't know, like it's like the age old question of, what do you want to eat? Like, it's so hard to get that answer, and then she feels like she gave an answer, but she really
it's like pulling it's like pulling hen's teeth.
Yeah,
when you're trying to get that in.
Right, but she feels like she gave an answer. I don't know how to really explain. Like, I'll ask her for like this, for example. Like, I'll say, "Hey, what are you in the mood for lunch?" And I'll say, "How you feel about pizza?" And she'll be like, "Nah, not really, but whatever you want." And I'm like, "No, I don't want you to just say whatever. I want to know what you are feeling, like what it is that you want." Not just, you know, hey, I'll take pizza because you want pizza, so it's fine. No, if you don't want pizza, I want you to say, hey, I want Five Guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, that to me, that's not a real answer. Agreeing, basically saying whatever you want is that's
you want
not
a concrete answer. You want a concrete answer,
right? And she doesn't. When she does that, sometimes she doesn't get it. To her, that is a concrete answer. But I didn't understand that until we had a conversation. But I digress. I feel like the grenade that you threw was important, and I hope you single people, you monogamous people out there, are listening. That's some important shit that she said. And if you don't know your love languages, you should look them up, because that'll teach you better ways to communicate with your partner. I figured out what mine were because I have a friend. Shout out to my friend Anasha. She made me take it years ago. I was like in my mid-20s. I never really paid attention to it after that, but as I got older and looked back at it, I was like, oh shit, that's why I like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't know what to call it, but when I was able to define it, and then I compared, because I usually believe all that shit is BS, like astrology and, oh, you were born December 17th, so that means you're compulsive. I don't believe that shit, but when I looked at the love languages, I was like, oh shit, this is like 1,000% like me. So I think that really helps as a guide. But yeah, if you fear I'm missing out, y'all, you good luck.
and to jump in off of that, Rob, it's like, men, we have to do better about communicating, because a lot of men have the fear of saying the wrong thing and it ending the relationship. Because
done that, yep.
Because a lot of men, we're not trained to be sensitive in our answers when we tackle the issue of, hey, what's going on? We're straightforward and brutally honest, like the vast majority of the time. And a lot of times that's not what women need to hear. Like, women need to hear the truth, but they don't need to hear that straightforward version of the truth, because that straightforward version of the truth is very hurtful most times, because while we see it as being filter free and truthful, that shit is very harmful. So men, we have to learn how to properly communicate how we're feeling to women, because how men talk to each other is not how we can talk to women and expect the same result. Especially when it comes to relationships, doesn't matter if it's a monogamous relationship or a polyamorous relationship. We have to learn how to talk to women effectively that's not hurtful and comes off as very angry and angstful. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think the way men talk to each other sometimes is jacked up too. I mean, like,
yeah, it is.
You're talking to anybody like that, you know, and then people get in that's how you get in a fight.
True.
Like, but I'm gonna stay in my corner.
Nah, you're right. You're right. And I actually, it's funny. I don't really mess with people who abide by that. Like, the people that are close to me that I really deal with, even on just on a friendship level, like they have to have a certain level of ability to communicate and level of respect. Like even if you're my homeboy, I don't want to be next to you and hear you talking greasy to somebody else, like because that's not me, and I don't want to be associated or affiliated with that. And that's what I've told some of my homeboys who've had issues in relationships. The first thing I say to them is, well, did you talk to her about it? Did you really tell her how you feel? Like the way you're talking to me and really breaking down how your feelings are hurt, and you're telling me, yo, that shit hurt my feelings, bro. I'm like, did you tell her that? Nah, you know what I'm saying? I just walked out or what. I'm like, well, shit. That looks like anger, bro. Like, you need to tell her. You'll get a different reaction if you say, from expressing anger versus, babe, you know what I'm saying? What you said really hurt my feelings. Like, yeah, you may feel like a bitch or whatever, but it'll be better for your relationship. And it'll give you a better, a clearer view of your partner. Because when you communicate to someone effectively and let them know the effect that their actions are having on you, and you can look at the actions differently. Because then it's like, well, damn, you know this upsets me, but I see that you're continuing to do that. So what does that say about your feelings for me?
But that also stems from hypermasculinity, because for a lot of men, they're taught like, yeah, you can't bring up that something that your woman is doing is affecting you negatively, because then that'll run into like, well, this can be used against me in a future argument, so I won't bring this up. Or I might look like a bitch, so that might diminish me in her eyes if I bring this up. I should just stand and take this, you know?
And then what
And a lot of that comes from, and I'm seeing a lot of this online right now, people being quarantined, where people make jokes about their spouses. Like, I saw a meme this morning. If somebody had dug a grave in the backyard, and it said, my wife is digging a garden, but I don't know what she's going to plant in there. And I was just like, do spouses even like each other? Like, it's kind of taught, we make these jokes, and there's stuff in the popular media and whatever that's just kind of like, eventually you're going to be in a constant state of war with your partner, right? Yeah. It's going to be a constant state of conflict, and I better be the one that wins. So yeah, I'm not going to share my feelings because she's going to use it against me, or I'm not going to tell him this because he's going to use it against me. That's not love. That's possession. That's control. That ain't right.
Yeah, that's right? Nasty, man.
But we got the cards, the cards are stacked against us, right? I mean, you see it in movies, you see it in jokes, you see it all over the place. This idea that your long-term partner, it's more of a power struggle. Right. And it shouldn't have to be. But again, when you feel like if you leave that person, you'll be alone, well,
yeah, people rather be miserable and together than happy alone. And I'm the opposite. Fuck that. Yeah. I refuse to be unhappy. Like, I refuse to be unhappy. I don't care how much I love you, how many years we having together. When you quit putting in the effort and I am unhappy, I'm out. And I want you to do the same thing. I don't ever want to be the cause of your unhappiness, and I don't ever want to be one of those people that is sucking the life out of you. That is too much life out here to live, and too many things that you can do and experience for you to choose to be unhappy.
Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to be careful with my words where I say when you think that's your only choice, like your only choices are to be alone or to be miserable with your partner. What I've been trying to, I think, say the whole time, maybe clumsily, is that those aren't your only two choices.
That's true.
Right? And I feel like polyamory has gotten me away from those, like, just that narrow, like, thinking that, not to say that what you said was narrow, but just kind of, that has been my way of breaking away from thinking I only had the choice between being miserable or being alone.
True.
Right? There might be people who find ways that aren't my way of also breaking out of that idea of, like, that false choice between being alone or being miserable. Right?
Yep.
So I just wanted to clear that up, but you made a good point.
No, that's true, and it's true. And people might not call it being poly, but there's people out there who just date and have sex and chill with other people, but they just don't define it. They don't put any parameters on it, which I think being poly is smart because those parameters help keep you protected, emotionally, mentally, and your health-wise. But yeah, you're right. That's not the only choice. My homeboys joke all the time, man. Shit, I'm about to break up with her and just be a hoe. Like, it just... I knew you was going to laugh because I know you've heard that from people. So, yeah. you
Dude,
know,
my best friend Earl used to be the same way before he got married. So I know that behavior.
yeah, ladies, that's you know, that's a dude's go-to. I'm gonna just go be a hoe. So yeah, you do have those choices. I mean, you do have those choices. Do you want to go down that road and adapt your lifestyle and change your lifestyle? That's up to you. But yeah, there's more than those two choices.
But it takes a lot of work. I mean, you know, you have to be real intentional. Like first date, sitting down with somebody and being like, all right, this is how I run my other relationships. Like it's
I gotta have a portfolio.
Yeah, you can't just let things happen. I think we also get, and I like from daggone rom-coms, like I say in my classes, I'm like, y'all, rom-coms aren't real. Sorry.
Yes.
Boom. Okay, moving on. But it's like we get this idea that love and relationships should be this effortless thing. There ain't nothing in life like that. Like even with your family, it all takes work. So no, you don't get anything in life that's not effortless. Sorry. Like
Yeah.
no, you don't get to have that.
I remember me and Danny's first date. Like we went out for coffee, and
how'd y'all meet? I meant to ask you that.
I didn't know that was a date. Also.
Oh shit!
It was like a non-date date.
Okay. Say that again. Say that again. It was a non-date
date.
Okay.
You're walking it back. No, I didn't know. I thought I mean, I'm not mad about it, but that's just funny. That's news. That was news to me. I didn't know it was a date.
All right, the first time we had coffee, I was straight up and honest when like, hey, I'm in an open poly relationship. I have one partner already. It wasn't like something that had to be like danced around or anything like that. I just laid it out. I was like, hey, this is the situation that I'm in. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to soft pedal it.
That conversation makes more sense now that you told me it was a date, because I was like, that's nice he's telling me that.
So that's NT.
Sorry.
How okay. What made you think it was a date, Dave, versus Dani, you thinking it wasn't?
I had just moved to town, and we had been talking online for a minute, and it wasn't necessarily a dating site that we met on. And I was just like, you know, I thought we had like some similar hobbies, and we had met at a party a few days before, and we had already had plans to make coffee. Had plans to get coffee. To get coffee. I need to make coffee now.
But we were at the same party at the same time, so we ended up talking to each other then.
and I had just moved to town, so I was not going to turn down a coffee date with anybody, or maybe one date, a coffee, whatever, a coffee meeting.
A coffee experience.
Coffee experience with anybody. So that's how it happened. I didn't know it was a date.
It wasn't like a I'm interested in you romantically date. It was like, hey, I'd like to get to know this person. She seems very interesting.
Oh, you call that a date? Okay, cool. See, Rob, this is what we mean about communication. You just got to do it.
Yeah. Y'all are hilarious.
Did you have anything else to add about? Was that it?
No, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we moved slow though. I did. I was the slower one.
No, we both moved at like a slow pace. We didn't rush into anything.
Yeah, it's like I ain't in no hurry.
How long y'all been? I guess the word is together.
Almost a year.
Okay. What is So what is the end goal? Like, is there an end goal? Like, you know, obviously in a well, not obviously, but a lot of people who are monogamous eventually want, I'm not even going to say a lot because the shit is so fucking different, which is why I'm so surprised by some of the reactions, but it goes back to what Dani was saying. I'm so surprised by some of the reactions that people have to poly relationships and all these different thoughts, because I'm like, if you watch TV or any kind of movie or TV show, or have coworkers, you've seen and been exposed to a lot of this shit unless you live in a bubble. I know I've seen almost anything you can fucking think of. So it's like,
see, that's the thing. Like, I know where you're going with this. Like, what is the end goal? Like, for me, like, marriage for me is not the end goal, because even in a monogamous relationship, I don't see marriage as an end goal to any monogamous relationship. And it shouldn't be, because marriage to me is like the beginning of your life with that person. So that's not an end goal. That's like a new starting point. That is a different journey entirely. If you think that's the end goal, that's just setting up everything to follow to fail, because you've already achieved your end goal. So it's like, okay, what else do I have to look forward to?
You need to say that again, because I know some people who were so pressed to get married, and I'm like, you better think about what happens after the marriage. And one of the questions that I ask my married people, and this is another thing, y'all, you need to talk to people who are qualified. When I get relationship advice, I get it from married people. I have an uncle that I talk to, and I have a few friends that are married and have been married and are happily married, to my knowledge, for advice, because that's where I'm trying to get to. That's the next level for me. And I'm like, you got to think about afterwards. And one of the questions I asked them is, did you, and I got a scary ass answer. I was like, yo, if you look at your relationship before marriage and after marriage, has it gotten better, worse? Did she make any changes? Did she step up? And one of my homeboys was like, you're lucky if she changes for the better, because he was like, a lot of women, all they want is that ring, that ceremony, be married. Once they get married, they're like, shit, I already got you now. I don't need to do nothing else. And I think that's fucked up. I'm like, yo, if I'm going to be with you forever, I'm going to need some sauce on this. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't give me these pancakes with, like, put some butter and some blueberries in these shit sometimes. Like, don't just, you know what I'm saying? And I feel the same way. I feel like, I know that I'm an excellent boyfriend, but I want to be even better as a husband. Like, I want to surprise you even more to, you know, help reaffirm that, yes, we made the right decision.
See, but here's the answer to the question. Like, for me, marriage is not the end goal, because I'm not a big believer in marriage. I don't think it's like, it doesn't fit in with society as it exists today. It's a relic of times past. Like, yeah, it looks nice on paper, but like, as you said, like, I want to be a better husband. Like, I could be that as a partner. Like, I can easily step up my game. It doesn't have to have a title affixed to it. Like, my end goal as a poly person is to have permanent nesting partners. Like, we live together in a poly community.
Ah, okay.
And because, I'm pretty much the same, but short term, I'd like to get a cat.
But it's like,
okay, I have a question for you. Well, go ahead.
Okay. The poly community to me is like not the end goal, but it's like one of the bigger goals that I have in my poly journey, because that's an affirmation of us coming together to love each other and be around each other in a permanent living situation. Because that shows more than just love. That shows a very solid foundation of what these relationships and these friendships are built on.
Ooh, shit. I know it's that. I know that must be a huge. I could imagine. See, yeah, that would be. I think that would be a huge challenge.
It is.
Y'all have to be able to, because two people don't even get along.
But it would be more than three people. I'm imagining like myself, Dani, Angela, whoever Dani partners are, whoever Angela's partners are going forward. I imagine us at some point all living together, or even our poly friends that we want to bring into this. All of us living together and sharing resources and building something, so that we're not all struggling. Like, a lot of us, yeah, we're professionals and we make good money, but why can't we save some of that money instead of having to live like hand to foot or paycheck to paycheck?
So you're talking about a true community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
wow.
we're not a cult, Rob.
No, I said a community. But I get it. The way he painted, the way he broke it down, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not the kind of thing where like everybody fucks each other. That's
no,
not.
Because y'all the rules. Well, I don't want to say rules, but the structure that y'all have in place remains.
Yeah, like I look at some people that are in our community and like we're friends, but I'm just like, nah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I'm just like, you stay over there. That's all right.
Wow.
So like, with COVID, like right now, it's making me real nervous not having a whole community living together and people sharing resources. And like, I want some ground that I can plant something in, right? Because stuff's getting crazy out there. Like, I would have loved to have already had this set up.
So,
get some chicken.
how do y'all work towards this? How do you all get on the same page, you and you all's partners? Like, how do y'all get on that same page? It's like a big conversation. Sounds like y'all need to have a big ass meeting.
Yeah, it's a big conversation. It's a lot of networking. It's a lot of figuring out what the logistics of things are. So it's a very big conversation.
Yeah, and this is years away, and it's a whole lot of boring legal bullshit to make something like this work too, because you gotta like get property. It's gonna be, if we ever get to it, a lot of it is gonna be a massive pain in the ass, but it would hopefully pay off.
I don't think it'd be a big pain in the ass.
Yeah, you know what, Rob? I'm gonna try to think more positive. Yes.
No, I mean, yes. Seriously, when it comes to the property, y'all start an LLC together and just buy everything under that.
Damn. Okay, yeah, that's what we're talking about. So you know about that. Okay, cool. I'm gonna come to you when it's time then.
That's easy. I mean, shit, that's the easy. I mean, I sold real estate, so I've seen just about anything you can think of. But as long as y'all have everything in order before y'all start buying shit and everyone has the same rights to it, I think the decision making when that one person says no and everybody else says yes, that may bring up an issue, but structuring it, to me, that would be the easy part. Just the meeting of the minds to me would be difficult, I would think. But who knows? Yeah.
I'm going to call you in about 3 years. But yeah, it's going to be like, that there would be a whole conversation about living space, and if partners that don't live there come over, like, do we have an extra room that's like...
Y'all going to need a big-ass house. Y'all need, I'm going to tell you now, y'all going to need a big-ass house. Y'all might need to move to Georgia or some shit where y'all get a big-ass house for cheap on some nice land.
Killer Mike did that on his show, didn't he? Have you seen that?
Yeah, he did. He had what's the name? The comedian Delray Davis. He's poly. Openly poly.
Oh, I can tell. Who?
Delray Davis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. See? Okay.
I know I guess he's a singer. Jadena said he tried it. He said he couldn't do it.
It's not for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
He was like, nah, I wanted her to myself. And I was just thinking like, dang, you was with him yesterday. Was he better than me? And I'm like, yep, see? Can't think about that.
Well, I see, and I don't even think about better anymore. It's just different. Like, me personally, different. I think my bandwidth is about 1.5 partners. Like, I got my other partner, I see him very, not rarely, but I see him a lot less, and he's got like family responsibilities and stuff, and he's got a lot of other stuff on his plate, and we were both like, yeah, I'm not looking for anything serious, and he's like, me neither. I'm like, cool, I like it. and
like even though I have two partners, like Angela and Dani, like my relationship with Angela is like very, very sapiosexual, and that means like it's very intelligence based. Like we sit around a lot and just talk and have conversations and watch movies and read together. Like very rarely do we have sex, but when we do, it's like all in the span of a month, and she's good for like 4 or 5 months. So relationships and poly dynamics are different. They're not all the same.
Mm-hmm. And I'm no dummy, but we spend a lot of our time goofing around. So
yeah.
Well, I want to thank you two for joining me and shedding some light on the poly lifestyle and what that looks like, and how you all think, how you all look at relationships and how you define things. I think that's very important. I think you've provided a ton of clarity to people who may have never seen or thought about this before, and I think that's awesome.
I hope this quells like the angry DMs, man.
No, it's not. It's not gonna quell it. I mean, even if they listen to this episode, it's not gonna quell it. It's people are just gonna disagree with each other all the time. So I mean,
yeah, true.
But I haven't seen any mean or malicious comments. So like I had someone actually name calling. I'm like, come on, dude. Like you're not doing that. You're just, getting your point across. So it is what it is. Shout out your stuff too, man.
be sure to look up my Facebook for my video game and tech related channel. It's free play mode. I'm also on YouTube under www.youtube.com /free play mode. And also, if you're in the South West Virginia area, I also do personal tech and IT solutions. So I will fix your computer, get some viruses off of there. If you're looking at illicit websites and you click the wrong flashing banner, I'll build a computer for you. I'll set up your home network. Whatever you need, it's called DOS Effect Incorporated. And that's also under my Facebook room under the free play mode. So definitely check that out.
And Rob, I gotta be a ghost on this one, so.
Okay, cool. So once again, thank y'all for coming, and thank y'all for listening. Y'all already know, join the Facebook group From My Experience Podcast. You can hit us up on Instagram, FME_podcast, and you can email us with comments, questions, or if you want to be a guest, or if you have someone you think will be an interesting guest, hit us up in the DMs, or you can email me from myexperiencepodcast@gmail.com, and we will catch y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.